What's up, cuties? I am going on a mini stand-up comedy tour this summer, and I'd love for you to be there if you're a fan of this podcast and or just me. Los Angeles, I'll be there June 20th. New York City, July 7th. Seattle, July 15th. And I'm working on getting a Chicago date right now and possibly a DC date. So if you want tickets, go to fumiabe.com, Fumiabe.com. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, cuties. Just a heads up, Steffi and I had a crazy week this week and we weren't able to meet up and record. So we are releasing a bonus episode that we did with our good friend Mike Nguyen from the Asian Not Asian podcast. We recorded this back in December, so some of the references might be like 6 months old. But it was a really good conversation about being a dad in New York City and the finances of being a parent. So we hope you enjoy it, and Steffi will be back next week. Thank you, guys. Welcome to Cash Cuties, a super personal finance podcast where we analyze our friends' private credit card statements and judge their spending habits with love. I am your host, Fumi Abe, and Steffi is traveling this month. So joining me today as the guest co-host is the host of the Asian Not Asian podcast and my old friend. And according to LinkedIn, he's a digital strategist. Give it up for the hilarious Mike Nguyen.
You looked me up on LinkedIn.
I had to, bro.
You know who I am.
No,
We've been doing this for we had a podcast going on for like 5 I've known you for like 10 years almost.
I don't know you professionally like that.
That's funny.
I don't know what company you work for. I don't know what your title is. Also, this is not a comedy podcast, you guys. Not comedy.
Not funny.
This is not funny. It's personal finance. Want to get professional. Look you up on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Some of you guys may know I used to have a podcast with Mike. We have not done this since February 2022. So it's been like almost a year.
Almost
9 months since you had the baby. Actually.
Yes, that's right. He's in the next room.
The baby broke us up. No, I'm kidding. The baby's great. So it kind of feels like I'm like, have you seen that Benjamin Button movie? Yeah. Where like the woman, Kate Blanchett's character, like moves on, gets married, but like one fateful night they meet again and they hook up again just for one night.
Oh,
it feels like that.
Am I Benjamin Button?
Yeah. It feels like that. Anyways, we like to start this podcast by asking each other how we're doing financially. Since Steffi is not here, I will just go first and tell you how I've been doing financially. If you've been listening to the podcast, I think you guys know that 2022 has been a roller coaster. I was like working, making a lot of money, then I got fired, and then I was making no money. But then I was making some money from like random passive income stuff. And I think starting 2023, I'm like, what do I do? Because that sort of residual checks, sort of the passive income is like running out. So like I had this like panic session, and then I'm in New York now. And I told you this last week, but I I secretly planned coffee with my old boss from my marketing company to see if I could like work part-time again or something. I was just like, I was so scared. It's so scary not having a consistent work. And it's weird. It's different. Like having consistent money is different from having consistent work, I realize.
Yes,
you know?
Totally.
Like I had money coming in, but I wasn't going to the office, so it didn't feel like I was making money.
To kind of help do a crossover episode, do you think that's an Asian thing?
I think it's like an immigrant thing, but also there's a lot of rich immigrants too. So I think it's just like whatever your parents showed you about their relationship with money. You mimic. It's kind of like, you know how the relationship you end up having with your wife is the one that your parents had? Yes. It's like that, but with money.
You learn how money and labor works from your parents.
Absolutely.
That's such an interesting point.
And so like I had coffee with my boss, and like I kind of like brought it up, but then he said something so crazy. He was like, so I found out he quit that job because he was inspired by me. Whoa. When I got courted and like was on Colbert and stuff. What? So he's like secretly wanted to be a movie screenwriter.
You're leading people down the wrong path, bro.
When he said that, I was like, no, wait, go back.
And so I sold my house and I divorced my wife, and now I live in a camper van down
just like you,
down by the river, just like you. Just like my gosh, can you help me? Here's my script. Read the script.
He did send me script.
Oh my god. Wait, how old is he?
He is probably your age.
That's inspiring. Yeah. That's cool.
But like he still like works part-time and stuff, so he has some money. And then his wife is also like very successful. So like, and he has a kid too. He's doing fine, but like when he said that, like I couldn't really bring it up anymore.
Oh shit.
You know, because I was like, oh, I'm here like inspiring people. This is not part of the plan, you know? And it's also like embarrassing to be like, actually, scrap all that.
Actually, you inspired me to go back.
Dude, so I couldn't ask him. But at the end,
didn't ask him?
I didn't ask him. But at the end, he said, like, I think he could kind of tell, and he was just like, he was like trying to encourage me, and he was like, hey, don't worry, man. Like, if shit hits the fan, like Will, who is like his boss, which is like the guy, it's like him and this guy named Will, who have always worked with me since I was like 22, and he still is a boss of this company. And he was like, if shit hits the fan, like, you can always like, yeah, he's like, you can always hit him up and he'll get you some kind of work. So like, but he was like, yeah, just keep going, you know.
Or Will took a stand-up comedy class.
He was also inspired
he
by
got inspired by your boss. Now you're all living by the camper van.
Inspiration is dangerous, bro.
So dangerous.
Inspiration, like I'm out here trying to get a plan B, and I'm out here like inspiring people.
That's crazy, bro.
I know. Anyway, so that's how I've been doing financially. Mike, how are you doing financially?
Ooh, man, right. It's Christmas time when we're recording this. I guess New Year's, so it's a lot of expenditures, right? Not even for gifts, but just like traveling. I had to, I bought my plane tickets for me and my wife and my son. And my son flies for free, but like it was super duper expensive. I mean, I think our tickets were almost as much as it cost when we went to Japan and Korea. Oh my God. Originally, like,
is this because the holidays?
I think it's the holidays. It's like everything's more expensive, inflation, whatever. Yeah. And we also picked like the best flights, I guess, if you know what I'm saying, like with the best times.
Oh, sure, like a reasonable, not like
times.
a 6 a.m.
Exactly. We do good in and outs and stuff like that. But that was expensive. Being, we were in the city in San Francisco, and whenever you're away from your home, everything you do is an expense, right? Because you can't live, you can't just be like at home, like at someone's house eating their food, even though I did do that a lot with the person I was staying with. But it's like everything's an expense. You got to like pay for gas and travel and all that stuff. So I usually try, I'm so bad at budgeting. I have a budgeting app and everything, but a lot of times, I don't know where I learned this, but like, I will just, the way I kind of save in some ways is to just put more money into like different categories than I think I will ever need to use.
What do you mean by that?
So for example, when I set aside money for rent, let's say my rent is like, I have to pay $2,000 or something like that for rent. I'll put aside $2,400. Okay. And so, then when I pay rent, I still have this extra $400. It's almost kind of like I'm skimming off the top, but for myself.
Right. It's like finding a 20 in your pocket, but you put that there.
I put the 20 in there. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I always kind of have like a nice little buffer in the, checking account, but this month used it. Like I almost went down to zero, which I haven't done in a long time.
Yeah. Well, holidays, every time you move, or like if anybody's like a budgeting app and you're looking at your monthly thing, you're like, oh, on average, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But like, it's interesting because you think you're pretty the same every month, but when you look, you're like, oh, I moved in August, so like I spent like an exorbitant amount of money during Christmas, like you said, dude. I was just talking to my friend who flew to New York a couple days ago, or maybe right before Christmas. He paid like $700 to go to LA to New York, and I'm like, again, that is like you could fly to Japan for like $800 in February,
right? Exactly.
So it does definitely add up, but
totally. So I think that's kind of weighing on my mind. It's like moment by moment, do I feel rich or poor? And I have to remind myself that
I relate to that so much.
You know what I'm saying?
Every moment is different.
Every moment you're like, okay, do I have money or not? And I think it's hard for me to break out of that mentality because for such a long time when you're in your 20s, you're just like, do I have enough money to take out a 20 from the bank? Yeah. Right. And now obviously I have more money than that, but I still kind of have the mentality where like, do I still have a positive above $1,000 in the bank account?
For sure.
That counts as like rich or poor?
It's so crazy because I know exactly what you're talking about. You can make a decent amount of money and still feel this way. I always wonder for people who think like us, what is that magic number where you stop thinking like that? Is there a magic number where you're like, I never really have to think about? It's not that you're going crazy. It's just that you stop feeling moment to moment poor.
I did feel like that for a little while. There was a golden age where I was doing pretty good. Like I had a freelance job.
I love how this is already behind you. The golden age is
it's all down.
You.
The golden ages are done. I had the golden age where I had was making good money I had like a permalance job. So I had like this really good rates and everything. And I didn't have my child yet. Yeah. I was like living at this place that was like me and my wife. It was pretty cheap to live there. It was like like far from the train. And I just had like surplus, you know what I'm saying? Just like surplus all the time. And it was one of the few times in my life where I was like, if something came up where I was like, I need to spend X amount on something, no problem. Like I remember, this is how you know you're rich. I bought so much insurance. I got insurance for everything.
Like life insurance?
I got like insurance to like cover like my jewelry. Like I have like, you know, my wife's wedding ring covered that.
You know you're rich when you buy like a TV on Amazon and you buy the insurance.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when you click on that like, do you want tech protection?
Yeah,
I'm like,
Alliance or whatever, that company with the Z.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they do.
Yeah, you click on that and you're like, ballin'.
That's so funny.
That's how you know you got money,
with
man.
With flights too. I always do no, but like shamefully. Because flights are like, would you like to cover insurance?
Oh, the travel thing.
Yeah, I never do it, but you're right. If you're rich, you could do it. Yeah. Okay, Mike. Well, I want to understand more about the relationship between you and money. And I had a podcast with you for so long.
Oh, yeah,
buddy. I don't know that I've ever really asked these questions.
I don't think so. We always talked about doing something like this, right?
This was supposed to be us.
No, yeah, totally. And then you were like, wait a minute, you're ugly. Get out of my face. And I agree with you.
Let's not act like that's like a solid business decision.
I think it makes a lot of sense if you look at this pie chart here. Ugliness factor, it takes up most of it. So,
okay, well, this is how we always start. Like, so what was your relationship with money growing up?
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm talking about like from when you were a kid, high school, whatever. Like, how did you sort of view it? You know, was it something you were aware? Did you feel like you were poor? Like, sort of tell me like how you thought about money from a young age.
Yeah, totally. You know, I gotta talk about it from the Asian American perspective. My parents are Vietnamese American, so they came over here and they were refugees, right? But it's complicated. It's not like in America people think refugees like we straight up rolled up in here with nothing, right? And a lot of people did. I think my father came here with nothing, but my mom was here. She was already in college, and my dad was in college, and so they had education. So that was really important. And then they had support from the United States government, who was like trying to settle everybody. So let's just say this. I've talked to you about this before, but I always think about generationally, where you are generationally influences like so much about how your opportunities for economics and stuff. So my parents, you know, they had college educations, but this is the 80s. They were refugees. But by the time me and my sister were born, they owned a house and a car, and they were able to have a very comfortable life because this was Texas in the 80s. Everything was cheap as shit. There was so much surplus. So they kind of were able to have this nice cushy lifestyle. So I never thought of myself as being, you know, poor. We were not poor. We were like middle class.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't think they had a lot of savvy as far as like, you know, well, we got to invest in this and that. And so I think for them, it was the crazy thing that I think for Vietnamese people is like, oh, you can own land. And that was always a big way for them to kind of like accrue wealth, right? Okay. So they did everything they could to buy a house. They were able to buy a house pretty affordably. Again, it was the 80s. It was like super cheap to buy a home. And then as soon as like other you know, relatives came to this country, they would like live with us until they could buy a house. And that was like a very Vietnamese strategy.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying? We would just like, everybody would just live in this one person's house. We're going to be all on top of each other. But then once we save enough money, then we buy a second house. Then we buy a third house. And at the time, again, 80s and 90s, like real estate wasn't like now where it's like shooting up through the roof.
Right. It
was like, okay, it was a good place to put your money.
Right. If you had a regular job, you could buy a regular house. Yeah.
But it was just like, it was a good place to put your money, and it's paid dividends now. But that I think was like how they mainly thought about accruing wealth.
Now, what did your parents do professionally?
And gold. Sorry. Gold is the other thing. Gold is the other thing. My mom used to have like mad gold ingots. She was just like, this is the way in case if shit hits the fan again, we got to jump on a boat. We're going to be getting our gold. Okay.
My girlfriend's parents are Bulgarian. They also have silver in the house.
There you go.
And some are like in coin form. Some are like straight up look like what you find in Ocean's 11, like a bar.
Yeah.
It's so crazy that they still have that.
Yes.
Because they were like, oh yeah, you can melt this and like make it into a weapon or something. They're like, I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God. Yeah. No. And here's the thing too, is that like that mentality, like housing obviously is like crazy right now. Gold reached a crazy high, you know, in the like around the time of the pandemic. So like hey, you know what? They maybe were onto something because these are like there's limited amounts of these things, and so they were like, there's a limited amount of these things, I'm gonna go get it. And that's what they kind of did.
And what did your parents do professionally?
So my mom, she's retired now, she's a nurse. My dad worked at a 7-Eleven
all your life.
No, he worked there all through through our time in Texas, which again, just want to point out to you, my dad was, he's a manager at a 7-Eleven, but it's a 7-Eleven, and he owned a house and bought a car.
Oh my God.
I think they had 2 cars. It was crazy.
This is the 80s?
It's the 80s, bro.
You could work at a 7-Eleven.
Yes.
And have a family.
Yeah. And my mom was a nurse, but they were straight up middle class people, and it was not a big deal. I always think about how I make multitudes of money compared to them, even adjusting for inflation between me and my wife. And we're not going to be buying a house and buying cars and cash and shit. So it's just like, I forgot what your question was, but that's sort of, again, I want to kind of stress that point.
What was that dynamic like growing up? Because your mom has this like sort of noble profession. Were you sort of ever like, 2 questions, like, were you ever like embarrassed that your dad worked at a 7-Eleven? And also, did your mom ever give your dad shit for that? Or was it pretty like, this is what we do, we're immigrants, like everybody's doing what they can do? Was it pretty peaceful?
Gosh, man, dude, I think that I talk about this on my podcast, Asian Not Asian.
Plug it.
Available on all streaming platforms. But I do think that there's this interesting thing where Asian immigrant women, they sometimes have a better they're more able to fit into the new country because they can do all these different kinds of jobs. Whereas I think for the males, for men, it's a little bit more limited. It's hard to explain, but if you didn't have an advanced degree, and you're just like a regular dude, like, what are the opportunities for you as an Asian male immigrant, right? Like, are you going to work in construction? Are you going to, what I'm saying? Like, it's harder for you to find a job, I think.
Interesting.
So he took jobs where he could. And I think I definitely learned this from him. After he worked at 7-Eleven, he came over we came to California, and he like did all these random jobs. He's really, really smart. So he was like an accountant for a little bit, but like, kind of like a low level accountant. But eventually he worked at the post office. This is a big thing. Mm-hmm. My parents were always like, if you can, work for the government, because the government can never fire you. It's super duper stable. They were all about that. Yeah. Even to this day, my sisters both work for big higher education university things, right?
Right, institutions that
they cannot be, they cannot. They're very protected financially.
Like UCLA or something like that. Right?
Exactly.
They're not going to go away ever.
Exactly. So like, it's very safe. When it was obvious that I wasn't going to become a doctor, they were like, become a teacher, because teachers, like, they can't be fired. They have unions, So they were all about that mentality. So my dad worked for the post office for however long. You get a pension. That's a big thing. My mom has a pension as well. So that was like where they were going. And to this day, I've always been like my dad, like, where can I just get money, and how can I get that in a very safe way? Like we were talking up at the top of the episode, like, I've always got to be working, and I always saw that my parents were worried about money, but also worried about stability, right? So that's always in my mind, and that's why I think it's weird that I'm also a comedian, because in the back of my mind is always like, I still have to have a job, like a regular job. Even if I got like a fucking Netflix special, I'm like, on Monday, I'm still going into the office, like,
I think that's a very common thing. I was reading about Chris Estrada, is a comedian who has a Hulu show called This Fool. He like sold a show. It got made by Fred Armisen. And his article was about, he literally worked at a warehouse until the day he got the call saying this would be on Hulu.
Yeah.
So he just quit his job whenever that show came out, like, I don't know, 6-8 months ago or whatever.
Yeah. And he's probably going to have coffee with his boss to ask, can I get a part-time shit going back again? It's just like it's inside of like our fibers. I remember like having long talks with my sisters about like, we talk about our careers and everything. You could tell we were pointing ourselves towards jobs which were going to be like bedrock, I guess, like foolproof.
Right.
It's
not about making $1 billion.
No.
It's about making 75 for 55 years.
Exactly.
Yes, that is gold.
Exactly.
Right, to us.
I remember when after I graduated, I got my first like job, right? It was like, job in an office.
Yeah.
My mom was so fucking happy. She was just like, you're not going to become a homeless guy. This is great. And it was not a lot of money. It was like 40 grand. She called
her relatives, Mike's not going to be a homeless guy anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's like the bar for immigrant parents. It's like, if you didn't become a doctor. Okay. Second best thing, just a guy at the DMV. You know, like that's, my mom would have been.
So extreme.
Yeah. And I think, and to this day, sometimes I'm like, man, it's not so bad to work at the DMV. It's pretty, you know, you got your, like, you know, it's only like 10 to 5 or something like that. It's in there, like it's rattling around, and it's hard to get away from that, like monetarily speaking. Like I'm not a very big risk taker. Like I'm not gonna get into Bitcoin. Like, you know, I'm probably never gonna be rich because I don't have like, I'm gonna, you know, ride it, let it ride, you know. I'm always gonna try to like go for that safer thing.
But do you think like, okay, it's interesting you say all this because when I first met you like 10 years ago, whenever it was, you had like kind of just moved to New York, or maybe you like graduated from college and you moved to New York because you didn't really have you had jobs in California, but you didn't have a career, and you came to New York around 2008 or 9, right? Which was when I was in college. You came here to like reinvent yourself, and when I had met you, I think you had just gotten let go, but you had all these like weird jobs and shit like that. You know, and I'm just trying to reconcile like you had this, like you're saying, oh, stability is in my fiber, but here you are not doing that at all. And I just wanted to ask you about like, obviously when you come to New York to make it in whatever field, obviously at the time you weren't trying to make it in comedy, you were trying to make it just in like marketing,
right?
Which is really cool. But like, what was going through your mind in those days of Mike Nguyen when you were like, I remember one time you told me you were interning for free.
Oh,
you were already in your 30s.
Yes.
Right? Like you were doing wild shit.
I think the other flip side to just looking for something stable is to just become like have almost no overhead, right? And I was pretty good at that. I was pretty good at like finding a really cheap place to live, you know, living frugally if I really needed to. I still made horrible money decisions, you know what I'm saying? Like I remember one time I went and I only had $100 in my bank account, and I went and bought a hat for $100. It was so dumb. I was so stupid.
Wait, why?
I was so dumb.
Well, tell me about that. So that's what I'm interested in.
The hat's pretty tight. It's really cool. I can show it to you later.
No, okay, this is what I'm talking about because, okay, if I had $100, I would never ever do that. And it's interesting because we both have like, it's you just told this long ass emotional story about how like money's so important, stability is so important. I'm always going to prioritize stability over these risky things. And then here you are telling me about this one point in your life where you only had $100 to your name and you bought a fucking stupid ass hat. Now, what was going through your mind? Was it like, why are you able to do that with your money? Because I wouldn't be able to do that with my money.
Right. I think you know, for me in particular, this isn't for other immigrants, but like, I guess like the moral is like, even if you try to go and be this crazy artist person who lives in New York and does all these things, there's the tug of you, like there's something whispering in your ear saying, shouldn't you be working at the DMV or something like that, right? There's always like that. And I've thought about it a lot. I feel a lot of times your life, there's like a groove in your life that you're supposed to fall into, right? Your family set this up for you. You're going to go to college and then you're going to have like a stable job and you're going to do that. And you always think when you deviate from that, how much better life could be if you just went back to that. If you went back to if I went back to California and lived like my even this Christmas, I hung out with, you know, my big ass family, and my aunt, who's done very well financially, she's like, Mike, stop this foolishness. We have 3 homes in Orange County for all the cousins, for all of you guys to live in if you want to. And she's like talking about me and my sisters and everything. Like we're all like spread out all over the country. But that, you know, the parent mentality, right? That parent immigrant mentality is we have these resources, just come home so that we can start building.
Live with us for free?
Yeah, live with us for free. And so you can build the empire up, right? But all of us cousins, I'm probably the most extreme version because I moved the furthest away and I have like the weirdest job. You know, our whole thing, we're Americans. So like we're trying to set out and we're trying to find happiness or whatever kind of nebulous goal we want to have, right? So we have those two sides. So on the one hand, I'm like, I gotta try to find a stable job. On the other hand, I'm going out and I'm spending $100 on a $100 hat. You know what I'm saying? It's like, those are the two things. And that's that has defined my experience. And I think that defines a lot of Asian American experiences. Like we're trying to go out and do these things. We're like halfway in the American chase your dreams world and halfway in the let's go and live for free with with my mom.
Yeah, I think like, we were just talking about the way our parents teach us about money is so extreme. It's like doctor or parking valet guy, right? But they would be happy about the parking valet guy because the Hilton's never gonna go out of business or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So for you, it's like, I think sometimes when you get stuck in that stability mentality, you lash out and you buy a $500 hat because you just can't take it anymore.
Well, here's the thing too. I just very quickly, if you really think about the way that, I mean, I'm going to talk about Vietnamese people, Vietnamese Americans, our relationship to jobs and money. It's not actually about getting rich. It's doctor. You don't. Yes, for Vietnamese people, they know that doctors make good money, but it's not about being rich, because if it was about being rich, they would have told us to be bankers.
Right.
It's not about. It's about the doctor thing is about pride. It's about pride for the community. And then you look at how Vietnamese people like spend money. Yes, we're frugal. Our parents are frugal, but then we'll go out and we'll buy a fucking Chanel purse.
Right.
Because we're trying to flex for the community. So you have to think about it like that. Everything has to be related to that.
You're telling me you bought this fucking hat and you're like, this is for the Vietnamese community.
Yeah. This is the Vietnamese community. Check this out, Mom. You like this? I can break dance.
Chase is calling you immediately because you're in the bank.
So that's like sort of like, I think the value system that you have, like the way that you think about money. Why are you using the money? It's so that you can show that you're doing well for the people in your life, right?
Right.
I'm a doctor, and therefore I have a lot of status. A Mercedes is only worthwhile if you can show it off at the club, right? We don't have a club. We only have Vietnamese church. So we're going to roll up in the Mercedes Vietnamese church. You think about money that way. Like, there's some people, though, I think, who just accrue money for no reason. They don't have to show it to anybody else. But for Asian people, this is very broad, you accrue money for a reason, and you have to think about, I think that's really like what's driving a lot of decisions.
That makes so much sense. So I don't know if you actually said this, but like, what is your job?
Oh,
you work in advertising, right?
Yeah, I work in advertising. I'm a creative strategist, which is.
And you've sort of had your ups and downs, but now you're like, you have a full-time job.
Yes, I have a
you're
job.
Making good money. You're happy. And I've known you for a long time, but when we stopped the podcast, you had a baby, and I wanted to ask you about dad money questions because I just visited my sister who had a baby over Christmas, and I saw how much money, time, and resources that baby needs for it to stay alive. And my sister is married to a doctor, so they can like afford certain things. But again, they're not like millionaires or anything like that. And I know that, when I was in my previous companies, I've had CEOs sort of talk about their child experience, and they hire like night nurses. So that they can go to work, right? But obviously my sister's not doing that. You're not doing that.
No.
James Corden is doing that. You know what I'm saying? And so I just sort of thought about like, it's one thing to be like, I'm married to a doctor. I'm like, oh, you're rich, But then you tell me you have one kid, and I'm like, are you rich now? And so, since you became a dad recently, how has that changed the way you view your finances? Are there certain sacrifices? Because the salary that you make is a respectable amount. Okay. I think it's okay to say it's in the six figures. We're allowed to say that. We're allowed to say that. And that's great in New York City.
No, it's great.
If you're one person, that's great. If you have a wife who's making about the same amount, that's double income. That's dope, right? But now that you add the child into the thing, now I'm like, is that a lot of money? I don't know.
It is. When I first brought my son home, I was worried about the money thing. But when they're a baby, they don't really consume that much, right? They're a baby, right? So people are always like, oh, diapers are so expensive. They're not that bad. It's okay. It was okay. But as he's gotten older, now he's like 9 months old, and like I can already see the costs like exponentially increasing.
Okay, like what?
So the big thing is childcare. That's
like nannies,
a nanny, or if you have a daycare.
And how much do these things cost?
I think
like a range.
I think you can think of it as like, your childcare is about essentially like another rent, a rent a month.
Okay.
So like maybe like it depends. Of course, this is a huge like range, but like anywhere from like 400 to 800 per week.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
And
that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. 400 to 800 per week. Right. And it of course it could be way more, or it could be a little less, but that's just like another huge amount of cost. Obviously we live in a very expensive city, so our rent is very high as it is. And then, there's I think the really scary thing is as you think about in the future, the things that they will need. So, you know, I cannot ever send my son to private school, but like if you wanted to do that, that's like a crazy amount of money. You know, they've got all these things that they could have. I guess that's the big thing. Like I know some very well-to-do people, and you're always like, well, what are the opportunities that I want to give my son? Right. And you feel if you can't give those opportunities, you are a bad parent.
Oh, I see.
So for example, like I've never been skiing. My parents, we were not ski money family. Right. I think that's, you know, an expensive sport.
Right. And by the way, that's not a crazy thing to say. A lot of people have not gone skiing.
I think a lot of people have not gone skiing. But let's just say you know, there are people who have gone skiing, and that's going to help your life later on. If you meet another guy at the club and we're all going skiing, come on, Chet, let's go skiing together. You think about those things. You think about like the things that I can't provide for him may affect his life outcomes later on. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's like going to Disneyland or something like that, right? Like I really want to go with him. It would cost us easily like $10,000.
Right. With the planes, hotels,
and fucking Disney is going to be so expensive. So you know, right now, like financially, it's fine. We're doing okay. But like, if I think in the future, like, what are the things that's the math I'm doing in my head.
Right. So right now, it's like you can handle it.
It's fine.
But the second he starts going to school, he wants video games.
Yeah, if
now,
he wants to do this,
school,
and
whatever.
you want to do it for him. It's not like this isn't like, oh well. And I see now, like my parents, right? Like the how hard it must have been for them, right? They obviously wanted to send us to a good school. They wanted to like get us a car, and I was so ungrateful as like a fucking shitty teenager. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, that Toyota Camry that they got
exactly. You know, I was just like, but like they're trying their best to do all these things, and they see, you know, the opportunities and the things that my friends had, and I want to make sure that he has those things as well. So that's like really weighing on you.
And now, how is that affecting like the way you spend money? Because I know obviously you're into fashion. You like tech shit. Like you have hobbies. You love drinking. You have a lot of friends. You love to eat out. Like these are all the things that I did with you pre-baby. Yeah. And I wonder if now, since you have a baby, are you more conscious about your spending and stuff like that? Like, is it, I don't want to use the word negatively impacting, but are you more conservative with your lifestyle to give it to him?
Well, I think part of it, though, is you do want to impart your values onto your child. And part of that is we live in the city. We are city people. We're going to go out and do stuff. I take my son to the bar all the time.
That's New York City parenting.
That's New York City parenting, and I'm not the only one. I see mad parents there. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, look at little Tyler. How you doing? Oh, you want to do a shot? You know, like,
dude, when you go to a beer garden in like Long Island City, it's 70% kids.
Yeah,
it's 70% kids.
This is what you do. You know, this is like what we do. We're here. We're gonna spend the money on the things we think are important, which is not to say like we should be spending money at the bar all the time, but like, you know, we're gonna go out. We're gonna do stuff in the city. We're taking him to the subway and all that shit, and on the subway. And so I think that, you know, your money spending reflects your values. Now, that said, I do think that, like, hey, I do need to make some trade-offs because, like, you know, before in the golden age, it didn't matter. I was spending money on insurance like crazy.
Golden age.
now it's like I do have to be much more conscious of, you know, not just the money, but also the time I spend, right? Like, you know, I can't do as much stand up because I'm like, this show has got to be worth it for me to leave my son for, you know, a whole evening, right? And he's only going to be this age for literally like a few weeks or a month or whatever the fuck it is. So I really have to weigh that out. It has to be worth it, you know? So I think it just puts you in, it really, you know, I keep saying the word values, but it really makes you order your values. Like, what are the things I really want to spend money on?
And do you like surrendering to that? Because when I saw my sister do that, I mean, she was never like a career-oriented person to begin with, but like she looks like she's enjoying it, you know, which is good. I think every parent is enjoying it.
I do enjoy it. Sometimes I think I must be a really bad parent because I really like being a dad. People are always complaining about, oh my god, my dad ruined, you know, my kid ruined my life. You know, those hacky kind of jokes. I like being a dad. It's cool. Like, you know, like I think there's a time and place in your life to be going out to the bars and doing that shit. But like when I go do comedy and I'm out there and I see these 20-year-olds running around trying to get laid and shit, I feel bad. I feel sorry for them. I really do. I feel I'm like, oh, you're trying to live your life because someone thinks you think this is what a good time is.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, I don't have that. I love hanging out with my son. I wish I could do more for him. I wish I had more money. I never really wanted to have a lot of money. Now I do because you want to give him stuff. I want to give him stuff.
It's not really for you.
Yeah, I told you before, like at the beginning of this, I'm pretty good at like having low overhead.
Yeah.
I can live, you know, I can live pretty frugally, and I'm okay with that because that's my choice. And if it was just me and my wife, we can do that because we chose that.
Right.
My son had no choice. He was just born. He just popped out and was just like, this is not his choice to be alive.
Yeah.
So it's up to me. It's really not, right? You think about it, like he has my decisions aren't just affecting me anymore. It's going to affect him. And he has no say. He's literally a child. He has no power. And so I have to think about it like that, you know?
Do you guys, I don't know. I feel like this is just changing with the times, but like when people I don't know how like everybody's bank accounts are set up when you get married and stuff, but like now that you have this child, do you ever like buy something for yourself and then maybe your wife sees it and is like, why'd you buy that hat or whatever? Is that ever a thing? It's like, we're supposed to be saving for, yeah. You keep buying $100 hats, but even though you're supposed to be saving for his birthday party or something, you know? Are there things like that where we call each other out on like, hey, where'd you get those Gucci shoes? Because you and your wife both very into fashion.
Yeah.
Not like stupid like gaudy fashion, but it looks cool, but I know that sometimes it can get a little pricey, and I wonder how that's affected both of your sort of like, you know,
well, I think a big thing is like you have to just talk your way through talk your way around. I mean, talk your way out of all.
It's for the community.
No, it's so that when I'm at church,
this is all for church.
All the aunties will see and Jesus will love me. No, it's you have to talk you have to talk through all your decisions. So like we had like a bunch of talks. I think the big thing is, when we had a couple of trips, we had to travel to go see our friend in New Orleans. It was her wedding. And I sat down and I was like, if we do this, we can't spend money on this, you know? So I think if you are honest with those things, then it's going to be, you're going to be in a better place. You can't just pretend that like we just have infinite resources. Yeah. But if you're like, if we do this, we can't do this, you know, and we weighed it out and we decided to go, and it wasn't, it wasn't like a clear-cut decision. We really had to make a hard choice. So I think that's like, you have to be able to talk through all those different things.
Yeah. Do you feel like, this is such a depressing ass conversation because you two
it's not supposed to be.
No. You two are both like you both have good jobs. I have a lot of friends like that who are like in New York City. Yeah. You're not fucking millionaires, but you have good jobs.
No, I have a good job.
If you didn't have a kid, like, and you could just do whatever, you could go to Paris every other week if you fucking want. You know what I mean?
Like,
right? Yeah. But when you have a kid and you start thinking about the future, like in New York City, in major cities, I think a lot of people in major cities feel this way. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, is $150,000 not enough to have a good life here? And do you ever feel like, I mean, are you like, have you ever considered like moving to like Ohio or something because you just have to provide a better life for your son or whatever it is? Like I had a friend who raised his kid here, Long Island City, but it was the same thing. He was like, oh, it's just like so expensive. And he's like, now that he's like 6 or 7, it's like they moved to Ohio. Yeah. And they bought a house and, for like, and Ohio's getting kind of expensive too, but relative to here, it's fine. But it's like, oh, you guys like he worked at, what was that company? Edelman, I think. They do like PR. Yeah. So he's like a VP. Like he has a great job. But it's like you're a VP at this huge marketing company, and you couldn't see a life here with your son. Right. So you had to go to Ohio. Yeah. That makes me insane. Like that makes me so mad and upset and confused. You
got 2 points going. A, that the amount of money I make is, last year I made the most money I've ever made. I made about $150,000, but that's including some like, I don't know, extra shit that came in.
The podcast.
And the podcast. It did. The podcast helped too.
That's a neo fun, dude.
Yo, I have to tell you that like that I make even a positive amount from comedy is amazing. Yeah. It's absolutely, that puts me in like a 1% category of comedians. Yeah. Anyways, going back to like, this is how much money I made. I have it on a piece of paper because like I can't believe it. So I look at it all the time.
Wait, it's just one number.
I'll show it to you.
On a piece of paper.
I'll show it to you later. This is like my job printed it out. Like, this is how much your compensation was. I was like, this is crazy. And it does make me upset because if in my 20s or in high school, someone was like, you're going to make this much money, $150,000. I'll be like, oh, wow, I'm going to be rich. I don't know where it's become. I don't know how it became where that's not a significant amount of money.
That should be like, people should be like bowing down.
That's a very good amount of money. I should be able to like support my family and shit like that.
100%.
And my of course, then my wife also makes money. So it's like, we cleared like, $200,000. That's a shit ton of money.
So much money.
But like, I don't, and again, we're not in the hole or anything like that. We're doing fine. But it's like, I rent, I don't own a car. I'm, like, you kind of think about, I think most people, I don't want to like a bling bling life. I don't have to like live on the beach with like this whole thing. I just want to like not be fucked with by capitalism too much. And I think that's too much to ask for. Is that too much to ask for? I mean, that's I think what was before. When like if you own a house, you can be less fucked with by whatever the forces of the economic forces out there. But now it just feels like you're either at the whims of like those forces, or you're going out and you're seeing people with like 4 houses and like 2 of them are Airbnbs, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on here? So, it's hard to get kind of socialist on you.
I also feel like, so like anybody who makes like 150-ish, like I think, to me that says like, oh, you're smart and you have a good job and you work very hard to get here. Anybody who makes like 300 and above, I'm like, you've sacrificed something.
Yeah,
either
something happened.
Your company is like directly shoving bubble tea straws into turtles' noses, or like you're not around for your kids, right? Like I think to make that amount, now you have to be a shittier person. And I think that's a sacrifice that a lot of people are not willing to make, and it's totally fine. And it sucks that you have to be punished for that by being like, well, it's either you rent forever in Brownsville or you have to move to Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Let me tell you this, though. I will shove a straw right up a fucking... I don't give a fuck.
If that means getting...
300,000? What did you say? Is that how much it is?
I'll do it fucking right now, bro.
I'll do it
fucking right now, dude.
But here's the thing I always think about, too, and I don't know if this is a lesson or maybe this is just some poor people mentality that I have.
Yeah.
I always think like, listen, at a certain point, how much money is enough money? Do you know? Like, I don't ask of it as like, why do I not make more money? But like, instead, why is everything so expensive?
Right.
You know,
right. Like you're doing fine. I mean, stop gaslighting me. I'm doing fine.
I remember like, this is like a long time ago. I remember I got a job and I was like, let's just say I was making 40, and then like I don't know, I can't remember. I got like a promotion or something, and then I was making 50% more. I was making 60.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is really good. And I was still like looking around, and I still felt like I didn't have enough money. And I realized, I was like, well, maybe this is how it always is. Maybe you always can have more money. And so I feel my mentality needed to change as far as like, it's not about making more and more and more. It's like understanding how you're spending your money. Like, what are the forces around you that are causing you to like feel like you don't have money? Because I could see easily, I get that job shoving straws up turtles' noses.
Great job, by the way.
I make $300,000. Honestly, if I made that much money, is that enough?
Right.
Is that enough? I don't know.
Right.
I fucking don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's an arbitrary number, right?
Yeah,
why not a million? Like there's always more things you kind of want. So to go back to the values thing, it's like, where do I put my values?
Right.
Do I need to flex for the aunties at church?
Yeah, it's all about the church.
Yeah. Like I always try to think about it like that. And I think it does help to think of it like that, because there are times, honestly, when I'm lying there at night and I've got my son, in the crib, and my wife is next to me, and I have a little tiny backyard with a little like,
grill?
You saw a little grill,
little Weber
dude,
grill.
Let me tell you this: to have an outdoor space with a grill
in New York City.
I'm a fucking billionaire, bro. I'm so rich. I do sometimes think I'm like, that's the thing. I sometimes think I'm the richest person in the world. I have a family. I'm safe. We're all healthy.
Yeah,
we're fucking rich. Yeah. So it's all good. But then it's like when you kind of think these things that are fucking with you, then you get upset. I think.
Yeah. I want to do some quick, like, rapid fire fun questions.
Okay.
Before we get into the game. These are just random ass questions about your finances.
Okay.
How much do you pay for your haircut?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing. And how long has that been going on?
Oh, I've been doing that since like, oh gosh, before I moved to New York. So like easily 15 years.
My God.
I think in the last 15 years, I've probably spent $100 on haircuts.
You're saving so much money.
Yeah, it helps a lot.
So much money.
Everybody go bald. That's the trick. Go bald.
Okay. What kind of credit card do you have?
Ooh, I just stepped down from the Chase Sapphire.
Oh no, my boy's not doing well.
I know. It's just so much money. And then like I didn't really travel that much.
Dude, I'm about to step down to what is it?
Preferred.
Just preferred. Because the reserve is like $400, $500.
It's $500.
And I'm like,
and I had to buy. Like, I had two, right? Because my wife has one too.
that's $1,000.
It's like so much
just
money.
To like, yeah, no, absolutely.
So I stepped down, and it's like only $100. And like you still get like a good amount of points.
Yeah.
You don't have some of the other weird perks. The one main perk I wanted was travel insurance. For cars, I think if you rent with a car with that preferred car, you don't have to get. Yeah, it's the same as the reserve. You don't get some of the other things like that airport fucking thing,
the lounge thing.
Yeah, which I never liked.
I never go in there.
The food sucks. I don't know.
Okay, and finally, what is the dumbest purchase you bought in 2022?
Oh my God. Okay, this is it. Hold on here. You can. Okay, the camera's running and it's right there. Hold on. Watch. Check this out. Hold on.
What is this? What is this? What is this?
Okay, this is, if you look on the video, you guys, it's on YouTube?
Yes, we're on YouTube.
Okay, YouTube.
Bulgarian bag?
This is a Bulgarian bag, okay? This is a giant weighted sandbag that has handles, okay?
Show the camera.
Okay, and you're supposed to grab it. You're supposed to use it to like swing around and like, it's going to help you with your wrestling and strength. When the pandemic started, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was like, I'm gonna lose all of my jiu-jitsu skills, so I bought this Bulgarian bag. It was like $250.
Oh my God!
And I used it for maybe like 3 weeks. Honestly, I probably would use it more now because I have an outdoor space. But
I'm sorry, you gonna do this in public? I thought this was something you do in private.
No, well, I got it. So I have this thing. I haven't used it very much. It's impossible to get rid of because it's hard to explain to people what this is. I put it up on Facebook Marketplace, and people are like, "What the? Do I fuck this?" Like, it's so weird. So I have to. My wife hates it.
By the way, if any of the listeners are interested,
Bulgarian bag.
Hit up Mike at Nice
It's
Pants Grow on Instagram.
It's in great condition. Let me tell you that. I'm just gonna wear it from now on.
When I walked by earlier, I was like 100%. This is some sort of child equipment.
Oh, I see. You thought it was that? Yeah.
I saw the word Bulgarian. I'm like, oh, this must be some like authentic, like some Bulgarian child rearing method that you're trying out because you live in Brooklyn and you're trying to do something, avant-garde or whatever. Let's go to the audit game, the unofficial audit game where I look at Mike's credit card statements and just sort of like judge your spending habits, bro.
Do it.
You sent me some screenshots. Video. Mike is he's got a lot of swag. He's got the Bulgarian bag. You have so much, like your fashion game is on point. You know, it's so funny. This Christmas I looked into buying Salomon XT6s, and I was like, Mike had these 3 years ago.
Oh yeah,
you had these.
You always catch up to me. Yeah,
I made fun of it. I was like, why are you wearing these stupid?
These are so stupid.
You had them 3 years ago, and I'm just now trying to buy them for Christmas.
They're expensive now too. Yeah.
So, but it's interesting because you dress like an artist, but on the inside you're like an XL Asian, and I suppose you're like. I
do have a good budget app. I don't know if you guys have a budget app.
Use Mint?
Sponsor. I use You Need a Budget.
Oh, okay.
YouNeedABudget.com.
we used to be sponsored by Truebill, but we're not using them, I guess.
Oh, right. Yeah. I use Mint for other like businessy things. But
yeah. So anyways, I was surprised to see I didn't see any baby purchases, but I guess because you have that on your other cards or whatever.
Yeah.
One thing I was that you spend a lot of money on coffee. Like too much. You spend $137 on coffee between end of October and end of November.
Yeah.
So that's about $1,600 a year.
Yeah.
On coffee.
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
That is a lot, and it's even more now because of the pandemic.
Right.
So like I
just make it at home. Is that a dumb thing to say to a coffee drinker?
Not at all. And actually, you're totally right. I was walking around the other day and I bought a cold brew because I like cold brew coffee, which is like the most expensive of coffees because of it's so like resource intensive. So I remember I bought it. And then like I tip the bar barista all the time.
I fucking hate that iPad thing,
I know. So it was like a $7. It was like $6 plus tax plus I had to tip the person, and it was like $7.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever had like a moment where you're like, I have to change my life, and that was it. And I was like looking at this $7 thing, and I was like, listen, I love coffee. They always teach that lesson. Actually, they always teach that lesson in personal finance lessons. The Starbucks effect, right? The latte effect, right? Which is what this is. It's like if you spend $4 a day on a coffee, that's whatever, $1,600 a year, or $2,000 a year.
This is a MacBook, bro.
So you can use that. You can invest that instead. I always thought of it as like, listen, if you like fucking coffee, then you should do that. Like, I don't love my MacBook, MacBook is a prison. It's work. It represents work for me. So, but I did stop and just think that's too much money.
That is too much money.
Like there is a point where I'm just like, come on, that's too much. Even for a hipster Bulgarian bad guy like myself.
I was surprised to see that I saw a lot of MTWA swipes. Do you not have a monthly card anymore?
I don't have a monthly card anymore because...
Is that because people are working from home and you're not really...
I don't... Oh, maybe you can tell me, how much money did I spend on MTA?
I didn't add it up.
Oh, fuck. I didn't add it up. And it was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of swipes.
I don't do it anymore because I don't live here, but like, how much is monthly now? $130?
It's more than that. I
love how you wanted me to do the work for you.
I know.
How much did I spend?
How much did I spend? Oh my god! I thought you were going to do that for me, bro.
Your taxes.
I honestly gave you this, and I was like, Fumi, for finally tell me what the fuck I'm doing wrong here. And you didn't even add it up. What kind of fucking podcast is this? It's so easy. You just like sum it. Okay, anyway. So
you sent me screenshots, so I didn't want to copy and paste.
Yeah, so I don't.
If you sent me the CSV file, a true Excel Asian, but it's fine. You'll get there.
I thought about sending it to you. Anyway, so I have to use the MTA thing a lot. I actually think that's probably adding up. Go ahead.
November 7th, you spent $56 at Tan Ting Huang. I googled it's an Asian supermarket.
Fuck yeah.
Okay, now a couple of things. Was this a family grocery purchase? What is it? Because I'll be honest with you, when you go to anybody who goes to a specialized market, especially if you live in LA, they're everywhere, H Marts, whatever. There's one for Spanish people, Japanese people, whatever. It's pretty, everything's marked up because it's a little expensive. Every time I go to Sunrise Mart or like I did in New York, I could not get away with $56. I'm always spending up to like 70, 80.
Oh, I see.
Just because like I always buy like a bunch of snacks at the end, which brings it from 50 to 80. But like this is actually pretty controlled. So I was wondering like what this was.
Oh, really? I thought it was going to be even more because that purchase there isn't a lot of things.
Okay.
It's like there's this like Vietnamese ham, I guess you could call it, right? And each one of those, I get the good shit. Yeah. So like let's just say I think they used to be like $6 and now they're like $8 or something like that. I bought like 3 of them and I bought like some like noodles or some shit like that. Like I always think about if someone like me who's making like 6 figures is like, damn, that was expensive for this fucking Vietnamese ham. Yeah. Like the fucking grandma who's living in Chinatown must really be hurting because this thing just went up a whole bunch. So this wasn't that many things, and so I thought it's more than this would have been like even a year ago.
Oh,
you know
I see.
What I'm saying? This was like a $40.
You didn't feel good about this purchase.
It was.
It hurt a little bit.
It hurt. I was like, I got to do it.
This inflation thing is like fucking. Also, I wanted to bring this up. First of all, I was gonna make fun of you for going to. Not make fun of you, but I was going to roast you for going on vacation and spending a lot of money. But New York is so expensive that I realized when you went to NOLA, you probably saved money because you bought coffee in NOLA and it was $4, and in New York it's $8 because you always go to Blue Bottle.
Yeah.
So that was actually a great financial move.
It's interesting. Yeah. Like sometimes when you go somewhere else, you're just so used to the New York prices that somebody would be like, yeah, this is going to be like a $15 cocktail. I'm like, give me 5. Dude, I'll take one to go.
I went to Houston and I got a Vietnamese sandwich. It was $4.75. Yeah. I started crying. I was like, this is a sham, right? What's happening right now? Also, gas in Texas is like $2. Is it
really? Shit.
It's because they can make it there. Okay, November 14th. I think you're still in NOLA, maybe. You spent $104 at Full House Harvey.
Yeah, so that was...
What happened there?
That was a Vietnamese place.
Yeah.
I went pretty crazy there because that's a place that has crawfish. Mm-hmm. And they have crawfish and Vietnamese food. And since I've never had crawfish really prepared in like a New Orleans style, so I really wanted that.
Oh, so it wasn't Vietnamese?
Oh well, there also is Vietnamese food, and I was like, I want I want pho and I want this bún, and like we ordered, like I basically was just like yes to everything.
Yeah.
And I paid for my friends who were there.
Oh really? See, again, you're saving money because if you treat your friends in New York, you're dropping $250.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Easily.
No way, dude. I mean, gosh, dude. I mean, trust me. After every one of these trips, on the way to the airport, my wife and I are having the why do we live in New York?
Conversation.
We're constantly everywhere we went. We also went to before this. We went to where did we go? We went to fucking like Cape Cod, right? Like it sounds like a fancy place.
Yeah.
Right. Still saved money. It was like it's just so expensive here.
It's funny to be like, it's like you have to save up for your son's college. You're like, I guess we got to do a vacation to North Carolina. You got to go to Myrtle Beach. You got to save some money this month.
Guess we got to save money by going to Paris.
I wanted to talk about this because this is a very unpopular opinion, but it's kind of related to inflation. It's kind of related to Asian food. I wonder. Okay, I'm only bringing this up because I saw that you spent $18 at a banh mi spot. I don't know if that was one or for two people on November 7th. Let's see, November 7th. Banh mi Saigon, New York. 1840.
Yeah.
Now, how many people was that for? Was that one or two people?
Ooh, that's just. Oh, see, that's what I'm saying with Vietnamese expensive. I mean, food being expensive in New York.
Okay. And I know you're not supposed to say because there's all these New Yorker articles about how like Asian food. What you're saying, Asian food shouldn't be worth a lot of money. Fuck you. That's not what the fuck I'm saying. I'm just saying. Yeah. Like, can we just cut the woke bullshit for a second? Can we just cut it? Just cut it out for a fucking second.
Right.
Okay. I love banh mi. I love all these Asian foods, but like, do you ever think like, is this a $19 experience?
I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
You really got to ask yourself that.
Let me just flip it so that it's woke appropriate.
Yeah.
Is that like this place, Banh Mi Saigon, is a very good Vietnamese sandwich. I think it's like as good as like a California sandwich, but it is I think. They position themselves as a no frills kind of place. And you can tell it's a place that you're supposed to go and it's supposed to be just like, you go in there, you can grab a quick sandwich and it's going to be good and it's not going to be too expensive. Mm-hmm. But the prices have gone up and it's annoying for me to spend, like I think I bought actually just one sandwich and one other thing and maybe I bought a coffee there. It was super expensive, but I don't think so. But I think if it's going to be a little bit of an annoying thing for me, it's going to price out other people. So some people have been priced out.
You're a banh mi loyalist. You're brand passionate.
Yeah. You can't just walk away from marketing ever, Fumi, huh? You're brand passionate. What's my persona?
Your type.
I'm a what is it? Not yet rich or something. High income, not yet rich.
Oh yeah.
Himby or something. Anyways. Anyway, so it's expensive, and this place is for sure. Now there are some people who used to go here as like and they're like working class people who just wanted like a sandwich, and they definitely don't go anymore because now a sandwich is like it's got to be like $9. Which that
makes me sad.
And I hear the argument for Asian people should some places can be elevated and it's expensive, and this place I think is just reflective of the fact that like. Inflation hits down really hard, right? So this place is not like a fancy place. It's not supposed to be. It's very good, and hey, props, respect to them. They should get all the money they can try to get, but for sure now some people have been priced out of that thing. So if it hurts me, it's gonna definitely hurt other people.
It's not their fault because they're raising it because their supplies are right. And so I don't know. It's like I used to love. I mean, obviously, I love eating authentic. Any food in New York and LA and all these places, but when it gets to a certain point, a price point, I get bitter and now I don't enjoy the food anymore. Certain ramen is like $20 now, and I'm like,
it's not supposed to be $20.
It's just simply not. It's not $20 good. It's just not. I'm sorry. I don't know if the vegetables prices are going up, bro. It's not that good. It is good. You know why ramen's good? Because it's supposed to be $5. That's why it's amazing.
Right.
If I'm gonna pay $20, I want a fucking steak. And I think that's like a hard thing that I'm gonna get canceled for saying that.
No. There was this article the other month. About how like dollar slices aren't $1 anymore. They're like $1.50 or $2. Yeah. But I really was thinking about what makes New York City awesome is that you can come here and be a hungry person, literally hungry, but also like hungry like for a career. You know, when you first get to New York City, you don't have any money. You're out spending $100 on a hat. But you have, what you can do is you can if you really only have a few dollars, you can buy a couple slices at the dollar slice.
Yeah, and get by.
And here's the thing, what that does is it lets you live for another day. And if you live for another day, maybe the next day, that's going to be when you get your big break. You get that call from
shit.
You get that call from the ad agency, you get that call from James Corden, you get the call from whatever, and that changed your life. But you only were able to do that because you stayed in the city and you lived for another day. Now, here's the thing, is that the more expensive something like that gets, that floor dollar slice gets, the harder it is for people to stay in the city. Because now you're like, oh, I can't even literally afford a dollar slice.
Right.
I have to move away. And now you've just like crushed someone's dreams, or you lose economic productivity.
Because maybe that guy's really talented. Maybe he just needed to be discovered tomorrow.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So it's obviously not just for comedians, it's for like, you know, whatever.
Anybody
construction workers and all these people, the people who really make New York City work, if they can't afford the two brothers,
yeah,
you know, where is it, you know, that we're going to be losing all this economic activity.
Now you're thinking about that as you're enjoying your sandwich. How's that good anymore? You know, it's like, it's such a terrible experience now because you're thinking about that.
It sucks, man.
Okay, let's do a couple more here.
Okay.
Now, Mike, you're gonna have to explain yourself here. October 31st, $17 Palace skateboard.
Oh.
You were in your 40s. Explain yourself. Explain yourself to your wife and your child.
It's even worse. It's actually this is something I bought for my wife. My wife is a mom. She's an Asian mom, and she went and she bought like some Palace socks.
What is this? A skateboard shop?
It's a skateboard, like, you know, cool person shop.
Yeah.
And you know, the only thing, they have some very cool socks. They are, each one is like $15 or something like that. So she went and bought those because, like, you know, you know, here's the thing, is sometimes when you're a fashion person, you can just get by buying, just like scratching the itch.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I can't afford to buy like the crazy, you know,
the bag or the
Gucci,
shoes.
like, you know, summer collection. So maybe I can just go and like buy something at Urban Outfitter. That's what I do all the time. We call it cheap thrills. Yeah.
Okay. October 31st, eBay, $76.44. What did you buy?
eBay for $76. I mean, for certain, it was definitely clothes. I don't know what it was. I mean, it was probably like some polo.
Aren't there, I mean, like, for me, eBay purchases are pretty rare, so I would know which
I buy a lot of stuff on eBay. Here's the trick. I was really interested to see what you thought about my monthly thing. There are times when I will spend a lot on some swaggy thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But most of the time, I don't really... I think, according to my budgeting app and according to this analysis, it's not as... I've kind of come out of like, I'm going to be going and spending my last dollar on a cool hat.
Yeah.
You know, because I found that, you know, this is like a personal style thing now where once you find your personal style, you can go and find the inexpensive way to get it. You know what I'm saying? So instead of going and having to get the Tom Brown suit, you can find a cool thing from Polo, and Polo stuff can be really inexpensive if you go on eBay. Right. So like I'm trying to do it that way. So I think I try to have a lot of coolness with but being smart, you know, being smart about it.
I like eBay. I bought some clothes on there. I was listening to an episode of your podcast where you talked about how college hoodies are in Japan. I bought a bunch. I bought like random ones from like Ohio University.
Did you really?
Oh yeah. They're so cool.
Because of the podcast?
No, I think I just picked up on it like subconsciously through like what's that magazine, Popeye or whatever?
Oh yeah, I love Popeye.
I'm like, oh, they're wearing like I like the random schools. You know, I don't want to wear like UC Berkeley. I want to wear like University of Alabama or like something super random. But anyways, I bought a microphone on there for my podcast, and it was fake.
Really?
And they were like 98% of SM58s on eBay are fake. And I looked on YouTube, and there was.
How did you know it was fake?
You have to unscrew it, and there's like a certain sticker that's on there, and it's like all Chinese and shit. So I had to return it, and I reported him.
Oh.
Yeah.
And did you get your money back?
I got my money back, but I don't know if anything happened. I wanted him to get busted because I'm like, this is illegal. You can't sell products. So I've had experiences like that on eBay. So
you know, so let me get all economics on you.
Yeah,
okay. So if you save money, generally if you're saving money, there is a cost incurred somewhere else. So you're paying with knowledge. you're paying with knowledge or time, right? So if you have knowledge and time, you can save money because I know what to look for. I know the seller to trust.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
When I bought my Rolex, but it took me like literally like a year to like isolate the person I was going to buy it from. I had to make sure that person was cool.
Got it used.
I bought it, secondhand.
Yes.
So, you know, economically speaking, you know, you're going to be saving money, but if you're not putting in time,
But a year, you spent a year.
a year, so I could save money on. So you could save money. This is why, you know, this is why there's always the services which are like, you know, you're going to pay a premium, but you don't have to waste time doing it.
Yeah.
You're going to know for sure this is the real deal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
So,
okay, a couple more things here. November 14th, Leukemia Society $50 is now a good time to ask if you are dying from cancer.
bro, so expensive. I spent $50.
What if you're like, I'm cured?
Wait, how much is it going to cost? That's as much as I spent at Tin Tuan Huang. That was just I try to do it more, but I have a little tiny thing in my budget where I try to like give money to
nonprofits.
Yeah, nonprofits. For a long time, now I do less comedy, but all the money I ever made for comedy, I try to put into. There's like a Bed-Stuy like mutual support group or something, you know. So all the money I would try to put into that.
Really?
Yeah, and 1 year I did it, I calculated it was $1,000 from comedy.
That's amazing.
That I put into. I think it's like important that you do that. Like especially during the pandemic, you're like I was trying to like give more money to.
Now, do you feel because I have friends who donate a lot, but they all do it because they're all white and they feel bad about making a lot of money in tech. And so they donate like a significant portion of their salary into like whatever causes.
Yeah.
Now, is this something you started doing because you're making good money now? Or is this something that you've sort of always wanted to do and now you have the resources? So it's not really coming from like a I feel bad place.
That's a good question. I would really want to know what my immigrant parents think about this. Because I think the only place they
have
give...
Have you told them?
Have I told
Is
them?
it time to tell your immigrant parents that you've been donating money?
Mom, Dad. Because the only place I think they give is at church, which I don't like to give money at the church because I don't think the Catholic Church is good. And I say that as a Catholic, I'm a Catholic person, and I want to hold our Catholic Church to a higher standard.
Yeah.
So I do think I think morally it's important that you try to do that. Do I feel bad? I mean, there must be some aspect of it, I think, where I do feel like I have so much, I should be able to do this. I do think it's also kind of fucked that like private citizens, it's up to us to do that because we should be doing this collectively, but here we are. So
Oh, that's really nice.
I guess.
I don't know.
This isn't that bad of a roast. I thought you were gonna really come at me, bro.
I mean, this is how when we first started this podcast, we didn't know how this would go. It's really not about making fun of the other person.
You know,
it's more about like I just want to get to know, like, because this really reveals how you behave when I'm not with you.
Oh,
and that's what it is. It's like, oh, you donate. Or you have cancer, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you know, so it's interesting. I think that's it, man. I think we got through it. I think you're doing... I was really expecting, like, Supreme, Noah, like crazy shit. I was really, like, expected to be like, this is not a podcast. This is an intervention. Gina, come on in here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but really, like, and I'm, you know, as a friend, as a former podcast host, I'm very proud of the way you're spending money because you have a kid. And I was worried. I was so worried about Neo. No, but now I see this and I'm like, okay, Mike's not that crazy.
Okay, here's the thing is that, you know, again, to plug this app budgeting app, you need a budget. You have to spend money on the app. It's like $80 a year or something. But I think it's completely worth it because it's all about, you know, trade-offs, right? So it's like if you spend money on your fucking Supreme $100 hat or something like that, if you've budgeted it, great. But if you didn't budget it, it's going to come from someplace else.
Right.
And that kind of really helped me kind of like, you know, it works for me like mentally, you know, like it's okay if you're going to spend money on this, if you're going to spend $160 on coffee, but know that it's going to come from someplace. Right. Like, somebody else, something else pays for that. Right. So I think that's like, I think it's a healthy way to think about money because I think, I think an immigrant thing is like to just not spend it all. Right. Just like hold on to the money.
It's too extreme. It's not healthy.
It's not healthy. It's just not you're not thinking through the why you're saving it and what's being cost, I guess. So I think it's this way. It's like you can spend money if you want to, but know that this is going to happen. And that's if you go into that decision with your eyes open, then it's okay. If you decide to become broke with your eyes open, that's different. That's different than like I just spend a bunch of money and I'm so dumb.
Being broke with your eyes.
Yeah, you got to know. I'm gonna spend that. I'm gonna buy that $100 hat,
that
bro.
hat, baby. I love
Still
that.
got it. Still got it.
Love
It's tight.
that. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Thank you for having me.
Where can our fans find you, man?
Please check out my podcast, Asian Not Asian Pod. You can find it on podcast. It's on all the podcast streaming things. You can find me on Instagram at Nice Pants Bro.
And let them know if you want to buy. By the way, this Bulgarian bag has been on your lap this whole time.
It's very comfy.
I don't know what's going on. I think you are fucking it. I don't know why it's on there.
Yeah.
He has a boner. If you want to buy that, definitely hit him up. I don't know. I guess we're bidding. Starts at 150 maybe. I don't know. Winner takes all. I don't know how bidding works. Please follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Fumi Abe, the CHEFUMIABE. You can email us at cashcutiespodcast@gmail.com and tell us what financial bind you're in, and we'll discuss it on the podcast. Some people have sent in their financial statements or like their credit card statements, so maybe we'll do like a bonus episode or something like that. But we love hearing from you. And Steffi will be back next week. We love you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.